Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpati Gopesha Gopikante Radhagante Namostude Tapte Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chev Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jai Mudire Tulsi Radhe Golokananda Bhagwan ki Jai Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Jai
Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा वीरेंद्र सर कैसे हैं आप?
हाँ बस ठीक है. हरे कृष्णा.
हेलो तरुण हरे कृष्णा.
हरे कृष्णा गजेंद्र कैसे हैं?
सब ठीक. Right, so continue reading chapter 31st, which is the last chapter of this canto 4. Yeah, and shlok 15th is what we were reading yesterday. And as we know, what's happening right now in this adhyay is Narad Muni is giving the transcendental bhakti message to Prachetas. Yeah, that's what is going on, right? And yesterday we read, like, what Narad Muni is saying is that during the rainy season, water is generated from the sun, and in due course of time, during the summer season, the very same water is again absorbed by the sun. Similarly, all living entities, moving and inert, are generated from the earth, and again after some time, they all return to the earth as dust. Yeah, we know this, right? Now, similarly, everything emanates from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in due course of time, everything enters into him again. Yeah, is what is being explained by Narad Muni. Tatha har aveva gun pravaha. Yeah, everything comes from Lord Sri Krishna, and then it goes back into him. This entire material creation comes from the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, if you want to remember, like in Canto 2, we read about the whole Virat Swarup, how all these 14 planets are part of Lord Vishnu's body, right? Remember? Like Earth. Yeah? Like the Udar represents the Earth, and then the head was the Brahmalok, and like that. And Patal was at the at the feet. So like that, in the Virat Swarup of Lord Vishnu, right, the whole entire universe is described. So what this is saying is this entire material creation comes from the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And at the time of annihilation, again enters into him. Right? So all the souls which are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, connected to the Super Soul, enters again into him. This process of creation and dissolution is made possible by the breathing of the Mahavishnu. Yeah? Mahavishnu is the Karanodakshai Vishnu, if you remember. Yeah? Who is only a plenary portion of Lord Sri Krishna. Yeah? So we'll start again from Shlok 16. Ajay?
Sure. Etat pad tajag datmanah param sakridhri bhatam sarvitu yatha prabha yatha savo jagrati supta shaktayo drav kriya gyan mida bhidra brahmateya. Just as the sunshine is not different from the sun, The cosmic manifestation is also non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality is therefore all pervasive within the material creation. When the senses are active, they appear to be part and parcel of the body, but when the body is asleep, their activities are unmanifest. Similarly, the whole cosmic creation appears different and yet non-different from the Supreme Person. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So very important thing mentioned here. And who is saying this?
Narad Muni?
Narad Muni to
Yeah. Yeah, right. So Narad Muni to Prachetas. And what is being mentioned here is that, hey, like from the sunshine is not different from the sun, right? And like the sun rays, but they are still different, right? And so similarly, what you are saying is the whole cosmic creation appears different, but yet it is not different from the Supreme Person. Yeah, from Lord Sri Krishna is what is being mentioned here. I just read some of the paragraphs here. It's very nice. Tarun?
The sunshine is light, the sun globe itself is light, and the sun god is also light. However, the sunshine is not identical with the sun god, Vivas one. This is the meaning of simultaneously one and different. Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. All the planets rest on the sunshine, and because of the heat of the sun, they all revolve in their orbits. On each and every planet, the trees and plants grow and change colors due to the sunshine, are non-different from the sun. The entire material world is completely dependent on the sun, being produced by the sun, and the cause, the sun, is inherent in effects. Similarly, Krishna is the cause of all causes, and the effects are permeated by the original cause. The entire cosmic manifestation should be understood as the expanded energy of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah? So this answers how the world has been created, pretty much. No? Hello, Vivek Prabhu. Sorry, Virendra Prabhu.
yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can actually. Yeah.
When one sleeps, the senses are inactive, but this does not mean that the senses are absent. When one is awakened, the senses become active again. Similarly, this cosmic creation is sometimes manifest and sometimes unmanifest, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate. When the cosmic manifestation is dissolved, it is in a kind of sleeping condition, in an inactive state. Whether the cosmic manifestation is active or inactive, the energy of the Supreme Lord is always existing. Thus, the words appearance and disappearance apply only to the cosmic manifestation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Rinaji.
Hare Krishna Bhaiya, Hare Krishna everyone. Yatha nabhasya bhratamaha prakasha bhavanti bhupa na bhavanti nukrumat. Evam pare brahmani shaktyastvamo rajastama sattva miti pravaha. My dear kings, sometimes in the sky there are clouds, sometimes there is darkness, and sometimes there is illumination. The appearance of all these takes place consecutively. Similarly, in the Supreme Absolute, the modes of passion, darkness, and goodness appear as consecutive energies. Sometimes they appear and sometimes they disappear. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So this Ajay.
Okay. Darkness, sorry.
Darkness, illumination, and clouds sometimes appear and sometimes disappear. But even when they have disappeared, the potency is still there, always existing. In the sky, sometimes we see clouds, sometimes rainfall, and sometimes snow. Sometimes we see night, sometimes day, sometimes illumination, and sometimes darkness. All these exist due to the sun, but the sun is unaffected by all these changes. Similarly, although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original cause of the total cosmic manifestation, he is unaffected by the material existence. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.4. Bhumir apo nalo vayu arth mano buddhir ivacha ahankar ityarth me bhina praktir astadha. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All together, these 8 comprise my separated material energies. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. And it says that although the material or physical elements are the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are still separate. Yeah. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead is therefore not affected by those material conditions. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And how the thing works is the Supreme Lord casts his glance over material energy, and his glance agitates the 3 modes of nature. Like if you remember, in one of the adhyayas we read like how the whole cosmic creation takes place, how the, how Supreme Lord glances over the material energy, and then how the 3 modes of nature, but then how also the Vayu, the Akash, earth, water, everything comes together, right? And it says that creation then takes place. The conclusion is that nature is not the cause of material manifestation. The Supreme Lord is the cause of all causes. Sarva Karan Karana is what is being mentioned. Yeah. Tarun?
Tenekam atmanam shesha dehina kalam pradhanam purusham paresham swatejasa dhvasvat guna prabhavaha matmeka bhavena bhaja dhva madhaha. Because the Supreme Lord is the cause of all causes, he is the super soul of all individual living entities, and he exists as both the remote and immediate cause. Since he is aloof from the material emanations, he is free from their interactions and is Lord of material nature. You should therefore engage in his devotional service, thinking yourself quantitatively one with him. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. What Narad Muni is telling to Prachetas is, you should therefore engage in his devotional service, right? The Supreme Lord, thinking yourself qualitatively one with him. Yeah, thinking you are one with him and then engage in his devotional service is what Narad Muni is telling Prachetas. Yeah. Virendra Prabhu, this is your favorite shlok.
ये तो देखना भी नहीं पड़ेगा. दयया सर्वभूतेषु सन्तुष्टायेन केन वा सर्वेन्द्रिय उपशान्त्याश्च तुष्यस्ताशु जनार्दनः. So the translation, by showing mercy to all living entities, being satisfied somehow or other, and restricting the senses from sense enjoyment, one can very quickly satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Janardana. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Virendra Prabhu. So how can one very quickly satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Janardhan? Yeah. Is by showing mercy to all living entities. All living entities, Daya Sarva Bhuteshu. And when he talks about all living entities, not just human being, all the living entities, including all kind of species, right? And also restricting the senses from the sense enjoyment, right? It says here, Sarvendriyo Upshantya, right? And what does that mean, right? We read about this, like utilizing the senses limited to the requirement, but then, yeah, restricting the senses from the sense enjoyment, one can very quickly satisfy Tushyatyashu Janardhana, Lord Janardhan. Yeah, very nice. I think it's a nice purport. So let's read this also. Tarun?
These are some of the ways in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be satisfied by the devotee. The first item mentioned in Dayaya Sarva Bhuteshu, showing mercy to all conditioned souls. The best way to show mercy is to spread Krishna consciousness. The entire world is suffering for want of this knowledge. People should know that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original cause of everything. Knowing this, everyone should directly engage in his devotional service. Those who are actually learned, advanced in spiritual understanding, should preach Krishna consciousness all over the world so that people may take to it and make their lives successful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So I think a very important paragraph right here, like it says, Daya Sarva Bhuteshu. Yeah. And how do you show mercy to all conditioned souls, right? All the living entities. Like showing mercy doesn't mean like you go and express your sympathy because everyone is going through whatever issues, or give them food for one time, or sponsor the food, which is all good, all great activities, right? But what is the real way of showing the mercy to all the conditioned souls? Because what is the ultimate goal of the conditioned souls? All the material miseries are temporary, right? But they are suffering. So what is the goal? Goal for the conditioned souls is really to go back to Godhead. And then how do you go back to Godhead, right? Is by surrendering to Lord Sri Krishna. So what is being mentioned here is how do you show mercy to all the conditioned souls? The best way to show mercy is to spread Krishna consciousness. Because when people understand the Krishna consciousness, when they understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when they understand who is the original cause of this whole cosmos, right? Then they can directly engage in his devotional service. And when there's a bhakti in everyone, that's the mercy shown by the spiritual masters and all the devotees. Those who are actually learned, advanced in spiritual understanding should preach Krishna consciousness all over the world so that people may take it to it and make their lives successful, right? The biggest mercy is so that people can make their lives successful. Yeah, let's continue reading this. Rinaji?
The word Sarvabhuteshu is significant because it applies not only to human beings, but to all the living entities appearing in the 8400,000 species of life. The devotee can do good not only to humanity, but to all living entities as well. Everyone can benefit spiritually by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. When the transcendental vibration of Hare Krishna is sounded, even the trees, animals, and insects benefit. Thus, when one chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra loudly, he actually shows mercy to all living entities. To spread the Krishna consciousness movement throughout the world, the devotees should be satisfied in all conditions. Narayan para sarvena kutashana bibhyati swar gap vargah narakeswa api tulyartha darsina. Bhagavad Gita 6.17.28. It does not matter to the pure devotee if he has to go to hell to preach. The Supreme Lord lives in the heart of a hog. Although the Lord is in Vaikuntha, even while preaching in hell, a pure devotee remains a pure devotee by his constant association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To attain this state, one has to control his senses. The senses are automatically controlled when one's mind is engaged in the service of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Rinaji. So, three things mentioned in this particular shlok, right? One is Daya Sarva Bhuteshu, yeah? And then Sarve Indriyo Shantya, yeah? And then Santushtya. Basically, what it's saying is showing mercy to all the Sarva Bhuteshu. So, number one is by preaching Krishna consciousness to everyone, right? That's the showing mercy to all the conditioned souls. And Sarva Bhuteshu, Daya on Sarva Bhuteshu is by also thinking there are 8.4 million species of life, not just the human beings, right? So when we are doing Krishna consciousness or when we are chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, what it says is the transcendental vibration of the Hare Krishna sound is even helping everyone around us. Right? So even the trees and animals and the insects, whoever is hearing it, are getting benefit of that, and that is showing mercy to all the living entities. Yeah. And then of course, the third thing was to controlling the senses. So how do you control the senses? It's not very easy to control the senses, right? So to attain this state, one has to control his senses, but the senses are automatically controlled when one's mind is engaged in the service of the Lord. Yeah. So instead of restricting everyone and then even trying all the austerities and all those things, right? The easiest way, what is being mentioned here, is that the senses are also automatically controlled when one's mind is engaged in the service of the Lord. Bhakti. Yeah, that's what Narad Muni is telling to Prachetas. Then Ajay Prabhu?
Sure. Abhat Saklash Malatma Nyavirat Medit Bhavano Nijaj Nijaj Vash Gatva Mano Ayah Na Sarita Chidra Vad Chara Satahi. Being completely cleansed of all material desires, the devotees are freed from all mental contamination. Thus, they can always think of the Lord constantly and address Him very feelingly. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, knowing Himself to be controlled by His devotees, does not leave them for a second, just as the sky overhead never becomes invisible. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So what is being mentioned is if the devotees are constantly serving the Lord, yeah, what happens? Says the Supreme Personality of Godhead, knowing Himself to be controlled by His devotees, doesn't leave them even for a second. He's always there. And the way it's being mentioned is like the sky overhead never becomes invisible. It's always there. Yeah. Again, a very nice purport. So let's read this. Virendra Prabhu.
Yes. It is clear from the previous verse that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Janardana, is very quickly satisfied by the activities of his devotees. The pure devotee is always absorbed in the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated, Shravanam Shrakara Krishnaya, by always thinking of Krishna, the pure devotee's heart is freed from all kinds of desires. In the material world, the heart of the living entity is filled with material desires. When the living entity is cleansed, he does not think of anything material. As the mind is completely cleansed, one attains the perfectional stage of mystic yoga. For then the yogi always sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart. Jnana vashita tad gatena manasa pashyanti yam yogina. As soon as the Lord is seated within the heart of the devotee cannot be contaminated by the material modes of nature. As long as one is under the control of the material modes, he desires so many things and makes so many plans for material sense enjoyment. But as soon as the Lord is perceived in the heart, all material desires vanish. When the mind is completely free from material desire, the devotee can think of the Lord constantly. In this way, he becomes completely dependent upon the lotus feet of the Lord. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prays. Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Pavam Budhau Krupaya Tava Pada Pankaja Sthita Dhuli Sadrasham Vichintaya. My dear Lord, I am your eternal servant, but somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of this material world. Kindly pick me up and fix me as a speck of dust at your lotus feet. Shikshakada 5. Similarly, Srila Narottama Das Thakura prays.
Yeah, right. So I think what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is
Hare
saying,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, okay, Prabhuji, is I am your eternal servant. Yeah, eternal, right? The original. But somehow or other, I have fallen into the ocean of this material world. Like as we are all conditioned souls. So the request is kindly pick me up and fix me as a speck of dust at your lotus feet. So that's how one needs to surrender to Lord Shri Krishna. Yeah. So continue reading. Ajay.
Similarly, Srila Narottam Das Thakur prays, Ha Prabhu Nandasut Vrishbhanu Sutayuta Karuna Karaha e Bara Narottam Das Kaya na Thiliha Rang Paya Toma Vineke Ache Amar. My dear Lord, you are now present with the daughter of King Vrishbhanu, Srimati Radharani. Now both of you please be merciful upon me. Don't kick me away, because I have no shelter other than you. In this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes dependent on his devotees. The Lord is invincible, yet he is conquered by his pure devotees. He enjoys being dependent on his devotees, just as Krishna enjoyed being dependent on the mercy of Mother Yashoda. Thinking himself dependent on the devotees gives the Supreme Lord great enjoyment. Sometimes a king may engage a joker, and in the process of joking, the king is sometimes insulted. The king, however, enjoys these activities. Everyone worships the Supreme Lord with great reverence. Therefore, the Lord sometimes wants to enjoy the chastisement of his devotees. In this way, the relationship eternally existing between the Lord and his devotees is fixed, just like the sky overhead. Hare Krishna.
Arun?
न भजति कुमनीषीणा स इज्ज्या हरि रधनात्मधन प्रिय रसंज्ञ श्रुत धन कुल कर्मणा मर्देय विद्धति पापम किंचनेषु सत्सु. The Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes very dear to those devotees who have no material positions but are fully happy in possessing the devotional service of the Lord. Indeed, the Lord relishes the devotional activities of such devotees. Those who are puffed up with material education, wealth, aristocracy, and fruitive activity are very proud of possessing material things, and they often deride the devotees. Even if such people offer the Lord worship, the Lord never accepts them. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yeah. Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna is very dear to those devotees who have no material possessions but are fully happy in possessing the devotional service of the Lord, right? Who are constantly engaged in the bhakti, is what is being mentioned, right? Hare Krishna, Rasiksha Gauri.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
श्रियमनुचरतिं तदर्थिनश्च द्विपद पतिन विबोधांस
यत् सर्वस्वपूर्णः न भजति निजभृत्य वर्गतन्त्रः कथमूर्ति सृजेत् पुमान् कृतज्ञः. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is self-sufficient, he becomes dependent on his devotee. He does not care for the goddesses of fortune, nor for the king and demigods who are after the favor of the goddesses of fortune. Where is that person who is actually grateful and will not worship the personality of God?
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Like what it's saying is that, here says the mutual attachment between the Supreme Lord and his devotee is never to be considered material. It always exists as a transcendental fact. There are 8 types of transcendental ecstasy known as Bhav, Anubhav, Sthai Bhav, and so on. So there are like 8 types of transcendental ecstasy, and these are discussed in the Nectar of Devotion. Nectar of Devotion is a book, which has all those descriptions. It says those who are unaware of the position of the living entity and the Supreme Person Krishna think that the mutual attachment between the Lord and his devotee is a creation of the material energy. Factually, such attachment is natural both for the Supreme Lord and for the devotee, and it cannot be accepted as material, right? It's spiritual and eternal association between the Lord and the devotee is what is being mentioned. Yeah. Rinaji?
मैत्रेय उवाच इति प्रचेतसो राजन्याश्च भगवत्कथा श्रावयित्वा ब्रह्मलोकं ययो स्वयंभुवो मुनिः. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear King Vidur, Sri Narad Muni, the son of Lord Brahma, thus described all these relationships with the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the Prachetas. Afterward, he returned to Brahmalok. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So as we have been reading in all the previous shloks, Narad Muni has been talking about devotion to Lord Sri Krishna to Prachetas. And after doing that, Narad Muni goes back to Brahmalok. Yeah. Shambhu is Lord Brahma. And also in Brahmalok, which is the lok, do you remember? Which is Narad Muni's, where the Narad Muni is situated? Remember the name of the lok? Where Narad Muni?
Satyalok.
Satyalok is the same as Brahmalok. That is the Brahmalok. Yeah. Siddhalok, right? Remember? Siddhalok, which is a satellite to Brahmalok. That's Narad Muni's lok. Of course, Narad Muni is always moving to give everyone the devotional service, but that's his place, right? He says that one has to hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead from a pure devotee. The Prachetas got this opportunity from the great sage Narad, who told them of the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. Yeah. Ajay?
Te api tanmukh niryatam yasho lok malapaham harnesham tatpadam dhyayant jyoti yayo. Hearing from Narada's mouth the glories of Lord, which vanquish all the ill fortunes of the world, the Prachetas also became attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Meditating on his lotus feet, they advanced to the ultimate destination. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So after Narad Muni's hearing, Tat Padam Dhyayanta, meditated on his lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna, and then they advanced to the ultimate destination. What's the ultimate destination?
To be with
to go back to
Godhead.
Godhead.
Go back to Lord and Godhead.
Abode of Lord Shri Krishna is the ultimate destination for the human beings. Yeah, and actually again, it's a nice purport. So let's read this, Tarun.
Give me 1 second.
Sure.
Here it is seen that by hearing the glories of the Lord from realized devotee, the Prachetas easily attained strong attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then, meditating on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, at the end of their lives, they advance to the ultimate goal, Vishnu Loka. It is sure and certain that anyone who always hears the glories of the Lord and thinks of his lotus feet will reach that supreme destination. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 18.65, Man mana bhava mad bhaktyo mad yaji mam namaskuru mam evasyasi satyam te pratijane priyo si me. Always think of me and become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, this is what Lord Sri Krishna himself is telling to Arjuna, right? And also it's mentioned that it is sure and certain that anyone who always hears the glories of the Lord and thinks of his lotus feet will reach that supreme destination. Yeah, the Vishnu Lok. Yeah, and even Lord Krishna himself is saying this, that always think of me, worship me. What will happen? You will come to me without fail. Lord Sri Krishna himself is telling this to Arjuna, and through Arjuna is telling to all of us that then if you become pure devotee, you will come to me without fail, and I promise you because you are my very dear friend. So this is telling to Arjuna, yeah? Bhagavad Gita. Very nice. Let's do one more shlok. Rinaji.
एतत्ते अभिहितं शतर्यन्मा त्वं परिपृष्टवान् प्रचेतसां नारदस्य संवादं हरिकीर्तनम्. My dear Vidur, I have told you everything you wanted to know about the conversation between Narad and the Prachetas, the conversation describing the glories of the Lord. I have related this as far as possible. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And who is saying this? Maitreya Muni, right? Remember on the Ganga Ghat where Maitreya Muni is answering all the questions of Mahatma Vidur. So he has answered all the questions and he's saying Pracheta Sam Naradasya Samvadam, yeah, which we read this chapter, and Hari Kirtanam, yeah, describing the glories of the Lord. I have related this as far as possible is what Maitreya Muni is telling to Mahatma Vidur. Yeah, it says here that the Srimad Bhagavatam describes the glories of the Lord and his devotees. Yeah, it's a katha of Bhagwan and Bhakt, right? Because the whole subject matter is the glorification of the Lord, naturally the glorification of his devotees automatically follows. Yeah, but the whole thing is glory of the glorification of the Lord himself. Yeah. Shiksha Prabhuji.
श्रीशुक उवाच य एषु तान् पदो मानवस्यानुवर्णितः वसं प्रियव्रतस्यापि निबोध नृप उत्तमा. Sukdev Goswami continued, O best of King of Parikshit, I have now finished telling about the descendants of the first son of Swayambhuva Manu, Uttanpad. I shall now try to relate the activities of descendants of the Priyavara, the second son of Swayambhuva Manu. Please hear them attentively. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. So, Sri Shukdev Goswami ji is reciting this to whom? This is the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? How did this all start, right? the Sukdev Goswami ji is reciting this to
Sud Goswami.
no, the Sukdev Goswami ji. Yeah, Parikshit Maharaj. Remember, this is how the original started. If you remember that Parikshit Maharaj, he knew that he only has 7 days, and then he'll be bitten by the snake, right? If you remember, then so he only had 7 days. That's when he goes to the Yamuna Tat and he starts meditation, and then Sukdev Goswami comes, all that Devatas come, everybody comes. That's where Sukdev Goswami is reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam. Sud Goswami ji was present when Sukdev Goswami ji was reciting this. Yeah. So what happened is, before the Kali Yuga was about to start, Sud Goswami ji and all the Rishi Munis were present at Nemisaranya. That's when Sud Goswami ji started reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam to all the Rishi Munis headed by Sanak Muni. Yeah. So you see how it has come through. Sukdev Goswami ji reciting it to Parikshit Maharaj. Sud Goswami ji reciting it to all the Rishi Munis, Sanak Muni, because Sud Goswami ji was present when Sukdev Goswami ji was reciting it. Yeah. And of course, Maitreya Muni heard it all directly from Lord Shri Krishna also. So Sukdev Goswami ji was describing how Mahatma Vidur met Maitreya Muni and the conversation between Maitreya Muni and Mahatma Vidur, which was all about the descendants of Swambhu Manu. Yeah. So here, as you can see, the first son of Swambhu Manu is King Uttanpad. Do you remember who was son of Uttanpad? Yeah. King Uttanpad, had 2 queens, and one of the son, Dhruv Maharaj.
Dhruv Maharaj.
Yeah. And that's where we started, and that's where we have been reading about the descendants of Dhruv Maharaj, right? So that was King Uttanpad, and Uttanpad was the first son of Swambhu Manu. The second son name is Priyavrat. Yeah. So what we are going to read now is the descendants of Priyavrat. But do you remember, Swambhu Manu also had 3 daughters. Remember, we read about the 3 daughters. Akuti, Dehuti, and Prasuti. Yeah. I think we are going to pause here. It's already given. So Akuti, Dehuti, and Prasuti, and just quickly, you remember, Dehuti got married to Kardam Muni. Kardam Muni had 9 daughters who got married to all the Rishi Munis. And also they had a son called Kapil. Yeah. How Kardam Muni went for tapasya, and then how Kardam Muni went for tapasya, and how Lord Kapil gave the Sankhya Vigyan, if you remember the Sankhya Yoga, right, to the world. So we've been reading all that. Then we were reading about King Uttanpad and King Prithu Maharaj and all the other, the descendants of them. And then we are reading about the Prachetas and the King Prachin Bharishat. So we'll read, I think we'll pause here now. We'll read there are a few more shloks remaining in this Adhyay, 31st. So tomorrow we'll complete that, and tomorrow we'll complete Canto 4. Yeah, so it'll be really nice. So let's hear the nice bhajan, the devotional bhajan, sung by Kripaluji Maharaj, actually. Since we are in the devotional, is what is praised by Narad Muni. So hear a nice bhajan, and then we will
अलबेली सरकार की
प्यारी प्यारी भोरी भारी बरसाने वाली प्यारी प्यारी भोरी
प्यारी भोरी भारी बरसाने वाली
लो हमारी ऋषभानु दुलारी लो हमारी तो ही भूलो नहीं, भूले हूँ प्यारी।
भोली भारी बरसाने वाली।
सुनेगी भरोसा भारी प्यारी। छोड़ू नहीं पाछा, प्रेम दे आना दे प्यारी।
ओ प्यारी प्यारी भोली भारी बरसाने वाली।
तू तो मेरी थी है, रहेगी भी सुकुमारी। मैं भी तेरी बनूं, ऐसी कृपा करूं प्यारी।
प्यारी प्यारी भोली भारी बरसाने वाली।
तेरी कृपा में तो कछु कमी नहीं प्यारी। नहीं कृपा पाने का हूँ नहीं अधिकारी।
ओ भोली भारी ओ प्यारी प्यारी ओ प्यारी प्यारी भोली भारी बरसाने वाली।
बनवारी चाकर स्वामिनी प्यारी। बनते कृपालु ठाकुर बनवारी।
ओ प्यारी 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 भोली भारी बरसाने वाली। ओ प्यारी प्यारी भोली भारी बरसाने वाली। ओ प्यारी प्यारी भोली भारी बरसाने वाली। ओ 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 प्यारी प्यारी भोली भारी बरसाने वाली। अम्बेली सरकार की
जय।
Right, Hare Krishna, nice bhajan, right? Nice devotional bhajan, Vibha. So it's really cool. I think we're almost completing the journey of Canto 4. So tomorrow will be nice. And see you tomorrow, 10 p.m. Yeah?
Sure.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare.